health and safety is a bit like a part of me wants to say that that's the most important job that a first AD has, but then I do come from a commercial background where we have medics, set medics, and as soon as somebody more capable and competent is on set with me, I just relax that I'm not the one who knows most here. I wouldn't be able to resuscitate anyone for the life of me. I mean, I can try and I can succeed just as much as anyone else, but that doesn't mean that I would actually do a good job at it. So it's the same thing with whenever we're shooting something that's actually dangerous. We usually have way more qualified people than a first AD on set. We would have stunt coordinators, we would have stunt performers, we would have like when I've shot with there whose job it is to set themselves on fire, or to like divers who sometimes in underwater tanks, sometimes in live water, who's like trained divers, and on the side they do film jobs as well. So they're not necessarily from the film industry, they're from their own specific niche, and they also do filming as well. And then those are the relationships where I feel like that, and those are the most dangerous situations. Like sometimes health and safety can be a bit too, we can never be too cautious. We can never, yes and no. There are certain situations when you're just worrying for the sake of worrying because you believe that that's your job. But we are all, hopefully we're all sane and healthy and well-meaning adults on set, hopefully. But if we are, then we can all take care of ourselves with the basics. Like one of the things that ADs and the whole AD department loves doing is whenever we're shooting on streets or around cars is literally scream at people when there's a car coming. Mind your backs, car coming through. It's like everybody jaywalks. Everybody's been on the street before. Nobody's going to get hit by a car. They all see that it's 100 of people standing in the middle of the street. Nobody is actually going to get hurt. And at the same time, it only takes one crazy idiot to do something that they weren't supposed to be doing. So I do understand the caution, but it is a balancing act. But when there are actually potentially dangerous situations on set because the script requires them to be, then there is usually always a person who's just more competent and more capable than the AD. So then in those situations, what I do is everybody runs, like every AD slash every AD director couple runs a set slightly differently. But usually what happens is that the AD is running up to the take. So we say turnover, we say action, and then the director says cut, and we repeat cut. Some people really love to hold on to their actions and they love shouting action. And there is, if any budding directors are watching right now, there is a reason why ADs say and action, and they don't just bark at people, action, because it prepares everyone. And if there's a technical element moving, so if there is a dolly or a track or a slider, we usually count up to it. I like saying 3, 2, 1. Some people like saying 1, 2, 3, either way. But I usually do 3, 2, 1, and track. And it's the same thing every single time, even if you feel like it's boring. So like with stunt coordinators or trained people, sometimes I allow them to run the set because they understand better what's happening than I do. I kind of become a spectator, and it shouldn't be an ego issue that I'm not the one running the set anymore. We can all speak to each other that you tell me what you need. And most of the stunt coordinators, I've only worked with absolutely lovely stunt coordinators, and they very politely ask that, do you mind if I call this? Just like, no, you do that. And cut is still the director's territory, but then it's the stunt coordinator who I'm still the one who deals with the crew side. So I'm still the one who says turnover. And then we give the signal to each other that, yeah, we're running, it's all fine. And then the stunt coordinator goes, and action. So in cases where there is a de facto more trained person than I am, I work with them very closely to make sure that we creatively achieve whatever we want. And I usually deal with the camera side of things and the crew side of things, while they deal with the performance side of things. Sometimes they are really good at camera as well. Sometimes they can suggest shots or setups. And sometimes directors rely very heavily on stunt coordinator stunts before. Or like we did flying before. Like none of us have really done hoisting up and flying. So we just did not know the technicalities of it. So we were very heavily relying on people to tell us that this is possible, this is not possible. I can swing it this far, I can do this movement, I can rotate this way, but that way is just impossible, or it would take a half an hour re-rigging. So those times, sometimes even the creative choices are down to stunt people or people who are specialized experts. And especially when you're shooting with fire. Water is a little bit like that, but water is a little bit less dangerous than fire. When you shoot with fire, I just give the field to the fire person because they know so much more what's happening right now. And if I don't have to, and if anybody else don't have to, we don't even go near the fire because that's just the safest. So yeah, it's just in terms of, I don't know why, but health and safety just came to my mind that I shot a lot with quite dangerous situations. And to be fair, I've personally never felt like I'm in danger, or I've never felt like that I'm endangering anybody else on the crew. I did hear absolute horror stories, and we all know the few stories that made the media who have lost their lives or got very badly injured. And I always think that that's a communication issue more than anything else. Accidents can happen and lack of preparation can happen. But I also think that on the day, you can size up. I genuinely believe that we all have the emotional intelligence to understand whether we are communicating effectively or not. And some people might not be able to change their effective communication. So some people might be too shy or lacking certain skills, or effectively be on the spectrum and just physically lack the ability to communicate certain things. But I do believe that they understand that they are not communicating well. So if there is a situation like that where anybody can sense that the communication is just not good, those are the situations when we need to be extra careful and extra vigilant, because that's when accidents happen. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I do believe that accidents are not really accidents, they are communication issues. Because with people where we just have a good flow of communication, even like nonverbal communication, when we just share a look, it's just like, that's not safe. Then we can adjust accordingly. We can be like, I'm not sure if she should be doing this. Yeah, let's change that. So I genuinely think that on a small scale, we can over worry about health and safety. And on a big scale, it actually usually runs smoother than people expect it to be, as long as you are hiring the right people for the job and keep a good flow of healthy, educated communication. And don't be afraid to say no to jobs that you don't feel comfortable about, because especially with stunts, like that's the most basic thing that as soon as we have a gun on set that can fire, even if it fires only blanks, so as long as it's not a rubber gun that actually doesn't trigger, as soon as you have a gun like that on set, you need an armorer. Because you never know. I mean, I want to believe that my crew are educated adults, but there could be, and I have worked with characters like that, there could be a nutcase on set who just, puts a shrapnel into it. It doesn't have to be a bullet. It can be anything this size that goes into the barrel. And then when you shoot it at someone at that speed, it just goes right through the body. So you have to have an armor on set as soon as you have a gun that can actually fire.